Okay, hi everyone. We are going to actually be recording this video today. Steven's schedule didn't allow for a live stream, but that's okay. Everything's great. Um, but in just a few moments, Steve will be joining me and we are going to be discussing his book, The Ultimate Prey. This is about the true story behind the Yosemite Sightseer Murders. Very interesting book, extremely interesting guy to talk to. He has lots of interesting things in his background. He's done a lot of different jobs, but it's pretty amazing how he helped to bring the focus to more than just Cary Stayner being part of those who killed those young women in Yosemite. But anyway, sit back and I hope you guys enjoy this interview.
And where do we go from here? Which is a way that's clear. Still looking for that blue jean, baby queen, prettiest girl I ever seen. See her shake.
All of them are missing with no explained reason. For all intents and purposes, they've just vanished.
Hi, I'm Kyle Kraska. It's the FBI case that has all the elements of a Hollywood thriller. A missing millionaires, a huge reward, and clues the cops just can't figure out.
We feel almost certain that the women were the victims of a violent crime. The car was very badly and totally burned.
It's been positively identified by dental records. The second victim that was in the trunk of the burned vehicle, DNA testing has been done.
People responsible for the Yosemite murders are behind bars.
The police interest in the ex-cons heated up. They were getting locked up on parole violation.
But at that point, they were focused really in the wrong direction.
Our final guest of the program is a former police officer, Steve Sanzeri.
Everyone on all the message boards have all been talking about this case and debating it and saying, hey man, there's something more here than meets the eye.
But I wanted to visit with an expert on this, and Steve obviously is. Steve, thanks for joining us. How are you?
Good morning, Scott. Thanks for having me on.
Mr. Sanzeri, are you there?
I am. How you doing?
I'm doing pretty good. Like you don't know, we've just been talking all day.
The massive manhunt, all kinds of resources, multiple SWAT teams and sheriff's offices and highway patrol and helicopters and infrared technology to find him because of a screw-up.
I mean, I just hoping I wouldn't get shot at the front door. And the curtains moved, the sun's breaking, all of a sudden, Candler came out like a wildcat right at me for my weapon.
This is a fascinating story.
Here you were crying, you're so scared and all alone. Hangman is coming down from the gallows and I don't have very long. Yeah! His jig is up, the news is out, they finally found me. The renegade who had it made, retreat from the bounty.
Okay, and that was such a great introduction, and I hope you guys really liked that little film clip put together by Steven Sanzeri. And so we're going to begin here by, I'm going to ask, Stephen, what actually brought your attention to this case? So can you kind of give us an introduction again to who you are? Because some of my listeners might not know who you are, your background, and then what drew you to the Yosemite murders?
Oh, yes, thank you. Thank you for having me on, Catherine. I was a police officer in the Bay Area in the cities of Burlingame and then Foster City. That was between 1981 and 1989. And then I moved up to the Motherlode up in Arnold, California, and that's above Stockton. And I had a country club for a while. And I ended up getting into the bail bond business after I sold my ownership in the country club. And being a former cop and such, bail bond business is kind of natural. And then I soon realized you get bail jumpers, and fugitives that jump on bond. And so I dove into that, and we did a television show in 96, 97 called Bounty Hunters, which was syndicated, did very well. We had great time slots after Mad TV on Fox and everything.
I remember watching that.
Oh, yeah, it was a lot of fun. And then the second season, I became field producer. I don't want to be in front of the cameras and stuff, but I had bailed out a guy named Paul Candler Jr. in November of 1998 when I was a bail bondsman up in Calaveras County. And that's in Northern California. And after I bailed him out, it was February of 1999, and there was 3 sightseers that went missing in Yosemite Park. And that's in Mariposa County. And so that's only 2 counties over. So I'm in Calaveras, and then there's Tuolumne and in Mariposa. And I actually did post bond in Mariposa and sometimes in Yosemite Park. And my partner, Rick James, God rest his soul, he passed away, but best bounty hunter guy. And he was a sergeant in Washoe County, Nevada, and everything. So after the girls were murdered, I said, let's take a look into this thing a little bit. It's only, 40 miles away. And we bail out and chase a lot of guys up there in the Motherlode, you know the underbelly, and you get used to the meth guys and all the drugs. You get to know these guys. You befriend some of them almost. And after the sightseers went missing, Paul Candler, the guy I bailed out of Tuolumne County, he jumped bond on me. It was for $23,000. And he'd been in prison for 16 years, state prison. And so when they found the bodies and such, right around that time, Paul Candler jumped bond on me. And so I got a forfeiture, which is basically a warrant for bail bondsman. It's saying that your guy didn't show up for court, so they issue a warrant. It's a bench warrant, not a habeas corpus warrant, but a bench warrant. And so I started chasing Paul Candler Jr., and pretty soon it kind of started leading me toward that Yosemite case, because he lived in Tuolumne County, border of Mariposa, and it's very close by. It's off Highway 49 in a little town called Moccasin. And when they found Juli's body on Lake Don Pedro, which is right borders Moccasin, they're right on the highway, 120. I found out Candler was living in his sister's home about a quarter mile by boat to where they found Juli's body. And Candler was a sexual deviant, drug, he fit the profile. And he'd jump on. And so I started actively looking for him. And there was a lot of things that went on in between. Even just before he skipped, he called me and said the cops were after him for burning down his sister's home in Moccasin. And, to explain it, it's just a hill off of this little road, and it's about the 5th house from the lake. So he's right there. And if you drove around to Highway 49, there's a lookout area over Don Pedro. And that's where they found Juli's body, right below that. So we aggressively went after Candler, and a lot of things started linking him to possibly Yosemite murders, and also that he called me because the cops were after him because he burned his sister's house down, he said. And we investigated, the whole garage was burned. And that's what told me they might have tried to burn evidence and such. So we went after Candler, and we caught him on June 7th or 8th, I forget which day, of 1999 in Alabama, and arrested him. And it had gone from me showing up there as not getting any help because they didn't put his bench warrant into NCIC, National Criminal Information Center. But they wanted him, and the reason is because the day before I left for Alabama after Candler, who had a Tuolumne County warrant, is that I had Tuolumne County detectives at my house, and I briefed them what I was going to do, and they promised to put it into the National Criminal Information Center, things like that. And so I went back to Alabama, and the first day there, I got a call from FBI agent Barnes in San Francisco. Said, "Who's this guy Candler? You know what are you looking for him for?" And all this. So I knew we were onto something. Why is the FBI calling me in Alabama? They followed me back to, and it was Summerton, Alabama. And how we found Candler was we tracked his girlfriend back there because the stepdaughter was owed money from both of them. And I had met with her trying to, in between all this stuff going on for a few months, investigating the skip. And so she gave me a phone number and said Barbara's working at a mobile home park in Summerton, Alabama. And I called back there like I was from Alabama, and me and my wife went in there, and Barbara had this really bright red hair. You couldn't miss it. And I kind of played it off, and they said, "Oh, she just got here a few months. Oh, she's the best." All this kind of. So we took a red eye out the next day after I spoke with detectives. And by 2 o'clock that afternoon, we had eyes on her car. I mean, California plates stick out in Alabama. And it was a red Toyota or Datsun, I forget, I think it's Toyota, and that's what she drove. And we followed her and down the highway and everything. And next thing we know, we pull up behind her a ways away, and it's kind of rural, I mean, people, you spot cars. And it was Candler, he was outside, and he dove right into the car, and they took off, and we got in a pursuit and lost him. And that's when it became the #1 manhunt in Alabama.
Wow.
Kind of tells you, here's a guy from California who's now the #1 wanted man in Alabama. So yeah,
I'm surprised.
It escalated quickly.
Yeah, and I would think, I don't know. I mean, I've been through Alabama, but I would think that the people there would want to get rid of that little California person real quick.
Oh no, you hit it right on the nose, Catherine. Is we had when we were watching her car until she got off work, we parked across the highway at an old gas station. And I'll never forget the guy. He's an old timer, and it was a bird like feed place. They sold some parakeets and stuff, but it used to be a gas station. So this guy was in the Second World War, and he said, "I raised my family when this was a gas station." It was really cool, back in the 40s, late 40s and 50s. And so his name was Lavelle Roberts. I'll never forget. Actually, he came out to check on us because the old gas station setup, no pumps, was still like with the overhead there, even though it was a bird thing. And he came up with a shotgun. And we're like, "Whoa, hey, we're the good guys." And he said, "I've seen that car. Something's going on." He said that. And he says he thinks he saw Candler, even though it's across the street. And then after we got along together, they brought iced tea to us. We sat there. It was hot as hell too. It was June, And he said that we can take care of this for you. He basically said they hate white trash from California. And he brought up the militia.
Oh no!
Oh yeah, they're still alive and well in Alabama.
Dang, they're serious.
Sorry, I need the body. I need him to get off this bond. I don't need him. Can't throw him in the swamps and find him 20 years later.
You're like, "I need my money back, dude."
Oh no, it was crazy back there. Even back then, they had a Confederate flag at the county seat flying above. It was different times. But anyway, so we got California. We'll get into. We got Candler later on within a couple of days and all that. But yeah, it turned out to be a full wide big manhunt and everything. And so that's when I kind of figured something's going on with this guy. They might be protecting him. We got this Yosemite case going on. And when we hit the house, which I'm fast forwarding, we hit the house a day later at midnight. Candler was gone, but his girlfriend, she was sloppy drunk, Barbara, right? The one we followed. Mm-hmm. She said, "Oh, we thought you were the FBI regarding those poor girls killed in Yosemite." I said,
That's
"What?"
Odd thing to say.
Totally. I mean, but great for the whole what we're doing. And
well, that's a great segue into my second question for you, because in your book, you state, I paused and took a breath. I don't think he's running just on my bond. He took off just before the bodies were found. Now, why did it matter? And what was it that tipped you off that he would run before the bodies were found? And now that she's made this comment.
Oh, well, that's actually that's easy because, I'm not law enforcement. And even after the murders happened early, like March, I wrote an 18-page report to the FBI task force. They set up a task force. They still haven't found the women. And they sent task force up in Sonora, California. And so I sent them an 18-page report explaining why I think this guy's involved. And I never heard back from them, ever. And I'm a former cop, bounty hunter, bail bondsman in the area. I know what's going on around there. And I got a guy you should look at. I'm an educated, investigator. And never heard from them. They didn't want to talk to me.
Wow. That's insanity.
So what happened was that when they're looking for these women, because when they first went missing on Valentine's weekend, 1999, February, and it was a full, search and rescue, snowmobiles, helicopters, everything. And like I said to Greg Fernandez Jr. and Crip Rick, they thought, the narrative was they went off of icy road, because that Highway 49 is really nasty in the winter. I mean, it's terrible. And they kind of said, hey, it's like we'll find them in the spring or something, because there's a lot of snow and everything else. And but the FBI had been pounding on doors the whole time, so it probably spooked Candler. That's why he ran to Alabama. It wasn't because of me. It was because of the FBI and California DOJ was after him. It was a multi-task force law enforcement effort. Is that there's enough pressure on him, and that's why he split. Because late March he closed his PO box in Moccasin. He was gone. I couldn't find him.
Yeah, so that tells you that's probably a red flag that he might be a little more connected than what they're thinking.
Yeah, people run from Alabama to California, don't go the other way, and that's what woke me up when we finally got the information back there. I knew it was solid, but it was the FBI's investigation. They had over like 1,200 interviews or something. So it definitely, the word, that's a small area. The word got out. We're looking for these guys. And he took off. And if I was him too, being a dirtbag, I would have done the same thing anyway.
And right. And I might be, jumping the gun here. However, when I was reading your book and then also going back and doing research on the murders, on several murders, it wasn't just the 3 women, but also the doctor who was also found murdered. And how it seems like the powers that be only wanted to blame one person. However, there were so many different MOs of death that generally, if it's one person, they're going to stick to the same one. At least that's what they taught me. I don't know. I wasn't law enforcement. Did that kind of prick your ears and make you wonder, wait a second, could there be more than just Cary Stayner if there are these multiple different types of murders and yet they're all connected?
Oh, absolutely. That's when they found Carole and Silvina Pelosso in the burnt out car for Wheeler Road. And then later they found Juli, who's partially decapitated on Lake Don Pedro. You have different MOs right there. You have a burnt car. Now you got a decapitation almost. That definitely sparks your attention there. And Joie was later. That was July. They found Joie, the 4th victim. That's the only one Candler committed by himself, was Joie. But the thing is that all my investigation and all that, I have handwritten notes which I'll send you. You can post them up. Is from people that were around these guys. I had a lot of ears and eyes between Stockton and Angels Camp and all the way to Mariposa and Amador County. I did bail, and I knew a lot of 12 years of bail bond. You get to learn all the bad guys and good guys and in-laws and outlaws. And I had people start sending me stuff and people calling me and meet with me, and they were putting their brass out there a little bit, trying to help, because like I told them, when you got parents and daughters and sisters and uncles, and if this was your family, I'm the kind of guy you want to go find them, and even though they might be a meth addict, whatever, a lot of them still got a heart, and I had to deal, work through that, which I understand. But when it comes out, it all surfaces, they all want kind of the same thing. So I got a lot of information from a lot of people in those circles, I call it the underground. And they wouldn't talk to the FBI. They'd only talk to me.
A lot of times they just want to be treated like a human. It's like, they have emotions and they care and they cry. You know, they just have a problem. Doesn't mean
Yeah, no, exactly. And everybody has problems, you know. But the thing is that the information I received was very accurate, and it's been accurate to the day we went to the ditch at the end of the book. Is the people I befriended, and when we get into Devon later in the book, when he took me to the ditch in Salida, and we found the car parts and the Valentine's bag, which that burst everybody's bubble. Here's a Valentine's bag in a ditch, and the girls were taken on Valentine's weekend. Okay, really? I mean, come on.
I don't believe in coincidences.
No, this thing, yeah, it was covered up, and the question is why? Because of the meth trade and everything. There's some power brokers involved in that stuff, and the guys I was going after, whether it was Candler or Dykes, these guys later on, because I did this case for 2.5 years, even after even after Cary was sentenced, I was working this case. Is that there's a lot of money in the dope trades, you know, and don't kid yourself. And from the Ira Contras to Mina and everything else, and you know, Uncle Bill Clinton and all those guys, those clowns, you know, just like the fentanyl now, same thing. The reason the borders aren't closed because you know what, Joe and whoever it is, people are making money off that.
Yep, it's the
Absolutely.
money.
But,
and that kind of goes back to this other part in your book where you're telling the story of where Candler, you were chasing him, and I think it was you, somebody was chasing him in the truck, and then he rolls his truck, and his child is in there. His child ends up with, thank goodness, some broken fingers. Think he wasn't hurt worse. However, the DA failed to charge him on any type of child endangerment. So it's like they were trying to mold him into being a better criminal. Hey, look, we'll just cover you, do whatever you want, carte blanche.
Yeah, he was a big player, a big mule in the drug trades around that area. You know, my book starts out with Cliff Watkins when I was arrested as a bounty hunter in Mariposa in 1995, chasing this guy for another bond company because I used to chase all the other warrants and stuff, and how I got arrested for chasing this and that. And Cliff Watkins, ended up telling me, and I had to hire a PI because I'd been indicted, and they, I was looking at state prison, and it was all set up, and the guy that I so-called hurt was the nephew of a sergeant in Mariposa County. You know, even Cliff Watkins, when we interviewed him in December of '97, he told me where all the Mariposa was putting all the drugs. So now we fast forward to the 2020 thing. There's a guy named Orv Hatton. He's a former Modesto narcotics cop. Candler showed up. Orv Hatton was a real estate agent when he retired. He's a real estate agent at Lake Don Pedro Real Estate. Lake Don Pedro. And Barbara Dobbins, Candler's girlfriend, at one time worked for Orv Hatton. Okay? So Orv Hatton had fired her because there was some checks missing and stuff. So it's embezzlement. So anyway, I guess he had a new secretary, whatever. And I guess Candler showed up at his real estate office in 1998 and threatened to kill him and everything. And Orv heard about this, and he's full of spit and vinegar. He's an ex-cop. He was in Modesto at the time. He drove up there, and Candler called him out. And they met at a place like Chinese Camp. It's out there in Tuolumne County, Little Road. And he pulled up behind Candler's truck, and Candler jumped out with a 9mm handgun. Yeah, he pointed it at Orv, and Orv, you know, he's armed. He pulled out. He said, I wish I would have shot him. So Orv pulled his gun out, and then they got in a pursuit, and Candler rolled his truck, and his kid was in the car at the time. Candler was drunk, and his kid got hurt. Tuolumne County only filed the drunk driving charge, and they had to file the firearms charge. I mean, they got no choice on that, but the kid thing they did. That's the first indication that they were protecting him somewhat. And he went out, and that's the bond I bailed him out on. It's because of the Orv Hatton incident in Chinese Camp. You know, Orv Hatton was the guy, the ex-cop that was hired to infiltrate Mariposa with the Mariposa Sheriff's drug trade. He and an FBI agent and a retired Merced College chief of police, great guy, were hired by the new sheriff to look into the Ron Van Meter murder, their own deputy, and the drug trade in Mariposa. And Mariposa's been slinging dope since the Iran-Contras. It's Center California, and Ola Coke went in there with Barry Seal. Philip Marshall will talk about all that. all the cocaine at that one time was going into Yosemite County. And Orb has video of planes landing late at night in the Mariposa Airport, county airport, and the sheriff's department offloading cocaine and stuff. And then what Cliff Watkins told me is that he would show up and he would take it out to Joaquin Murrieta's old cave. And he hid the drugs there too. But the drugs got distributed in Yosemite Park. And then from there it went to San Francisco and LA. And that's how Orb got involved. He was a big player. And he's the one who told me, because I knew who he was, and especially after the case, and I bailed Candler out from the charges they were involved with, is that Orb Hatton, he told me, get a newspaper guy behind you or you're dead. You're dead. He told me straight up, you're dead.
Wow.
You're in the middle of this now. And I did that with Mike Mooney out of Modesto B, and he followed my whole case, and it's on the internet stuff. But that was the best advice I got. And but Orb Hatton was the reason I bailed Candler out for hurting this kid and drunk driving.
Wow. Okay. Well, we have just a few minutes left. I love how this program just sends you little notes. You have 10 minutes left. But before this session ends, you state in your book that Candler was a guy who did what he wanted without impunity. Is this what led you to say this, because of all these things he's done and he just walks away? He never gets in trouble.
One of the big points was when I was chasing Candler, there was a captain out of Merced County, and he called and he got a hold of me. They had a $50,000 warrant for Candler of trying to kill his mother.
Dang.
And the warrant disappeared. The warrant disappeared. Yep.
Oh my God.
He said, Steve, I don't know what to tell you, man. This thing is really screwed up. The warrant disappeared. Yeah.
Jeez. So how many states did you actually end up chasing Candler through? I know you started in California and then you arrested him in Alabama.
Just California and Alabama.
Okay. So those were the two states. That guy, he had no problem running around, did he?
Well, here's how bad it was, is that after we arrested him in Alabama, and before we arrested him, we basically kicked the door at his girlfriend's house. The cops came. And then I kind of led him to where I thought he was at. It was a Days Inn in Birmingham, but the whole neighborhood knew about it because there was everybody there. As he showed up 4 months later, back living in the same house, nothing was done. Nothing. It wasn't until a family member who was raped by him since she was 7 years old till she was 12. He went to Tehachapi State Prison on those charges of rape of a child, and he did 18 years.
Oh, he shouldn't have got
it. There was enough pressure, but they had to do something with this guy. But they finally got him on a kitty rape.
What a. I'll be.
You know what? About 4 years ago, I heard from the gal. The gal was raped by him.
Oh, is she okay?
Yeah. She called. I think she actually called me, but she'd read the book, and she was the victim.
Oh, I'm glad she's okay.
Yeah, she's fine.
Not okay. Okay. We're gonna end this session here because unfortunately, with the program I'm recording on, they have limited time spans. But we will be inviting Stephen back to complete this because we still have more questions. There's still a whole lot more to be said and talked about on his book, Ultimate Prey. And
Thank you.
But thanks, Steve, and hopefully you'll come back.
I will.